in my gluttony, cause I am Keith Fat. Bask in my gluttony. Bask in my. Let's go. Let's do this. Wrap it up. Alright, we're going over Keith Lee sucks. Now, look. Keith Lee, I'll say that he had a shortcoming over to the main roster since late 2020 when he debuted, the week after SummerSlam, and then just 2 weeks after, he just had a big debut where he beat Randy Orton in a good match. And then he comes over having this major hiatus, getting a number one contenders match. I mean, most people were on his dick since he won that Survivor Series match back at 2019 when everybody was on the schlong of NXT. And you could say it's because of his tone of voice or the way he's treated as a heavyweight. There would have been nice potential over with Keith Lee. I'm not denouncing that, but the way he isn't presentable over the eyes of Vince McMahon. And whenever it comes over to Vince McMahon, unless you're good for a TV presence and he can make a star out of you, there's no point of him having you over on his roster and wasting over his payroll. Especially if you're over your 30s, you can't control yourself on social medias, and you had multiple months of hiatuses over mental strain, going over having promo. You have promos issue, Keith Lee. You have promos issues. Nobody wants to come over seeing a 300-pound black man coming around and he's trying to sound like a Disney villain trying to seduce the Disney princess. What type of star are you? And he's coming here trying to get in Twitter battles, trying to defend his girlfriend. You're a grown-ass man. Get over it. And you think people are going to patiently wait for a 30-year-old big dude that barely has a stint over on the main roster if he can't control his weight, can't control his mentality, and he obviously can't control his reputation, and especially his look sucks. Sure, he can look intense, but he has a major gut. At least Samoa Joe is sloppy, but he looks like he can be a security guard. Keith Lee looks like he does workouts after coming from a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament. What type of guy is that? He looks like a big black Pokeball. His finishing move is literally called the Spirit Bomb. The move from Dragon Ball Z. What type of... And I've already made rants over multiple streams, recordings, reviews that nerd culture and professional wrestling mix like salt and sugar. You just don't mix it up. You can't do that. And now Keith Lee is released in just over a year and a half that he's been on the main roster. They call them Bearcat Lee over the coming draft, trying to give him a reinventation, even though it's just him getting angry or squashing over Cedric Alexander. And just knowing that he's just spread over the brink of like possibly going to Impact or something. It's just kind of stupid to think that there was going to be a shelf life for and people's biggest complaint with Keith Lee wasn't his character, or he thinks he needs to show more personality, or think he should gain a bit more muscle so he can look more intimidating. No, it's people complaining about his theme song. Bask in his glory. Bask in what? Limitless of what? Buffet lines? What is this? What is he limitless on? He's just an athletic fat fuck. There's Ivar. There is The Undertaker that's 300 pounds, near 300 pounds back in the day, and he can do planches. Being a big guy and doing cruiserweight moves is now the most over-exaggerated stigma of pro wrestling today. Because if you're a talented wrestler, you don't need to do a top rope move to get you over. You don't need top rope moves to make you a star or concede from the minority of fans that you are actually a star. That makes no sense to me. And the reason how they thought of this, it's just astounding. Because you're seeing big guys go over and do big moves, and they get hurt off the shelf like Ivar was out for majority of 2021. Keith Lee out for several injuries. Most of these guys are big. Most of the big dudes that are consistent that have a beer belly actually got over and still under contract is Otis over Tucker fucking Knight. You want to understand like how sad it is and mediocre the fan base is. Do not listen to them. You did not. I'm sure Keith Lee is a cool dude. Possibly he'll find something, and that's about it. I don't like hearing about people losing their jobs. That's the extent of respect I'll have for Keith Lee. And just knowing that he says, this makes me laugh. It's quite clear that either the intentionally ignorant or simply aimlessly. We get it. You have an extensive vocabulary. I am far from bitter. I am grateful for, and nothing in this tweet is anything bitter. Merely says bye to a singlet and looks towards the future, because that was what he last posted over on his Twitter involving over his release. Obviously knowing that he doesn't want his child to suffocate in the singlet covering his stomach. But that's all I'm bringing up. Keith just doesn't look intimidating. He is an angry fat dude wearing a hoodie covering his his unfinished child, while coming out saying, "Bask in my glory, bask in my glory." Like, dude. Like, this is what happens when a fat black dude tries to be cool in the nerd group. Because he can lift, like, 2 100-pounders. Like, that's what Keith Lee is. Now, this sounds mean, but I'm just making the jokes to bring up, like, we just had a guy lose a job. And over the extent of this, I actually had hope. Because, like, what WWE lacks in the current era is real heavyweights. You're seeing a lot more middleweights, cruiserweights, and I was more excited so we can actually get some variety that we can actually push up to the main event. I've had people thinking Tommaso Ciampa, Johnny Gargano, Seth Rollins, guys that are middleweight, cruiserweight chasers that are not stars yet, doesn't have don't have a realistic look that look like they can beat some random guy in the street that irritates them. Keith Lee looks like a guy that you don't want to mess with if you get him angry. The same thing with Karrion Kross. But it seems like creative had an issue over with creating Karrion Kross because he could talk. He has a look that you can make him look menacing. He looks like a guy you don't want to mess up with. But the only identity that he had a problem with is he's too much of a mark for himself. And he can't handle social media bullshit. And plus his girlfriend carries him to any type of mystique that he has. Keith Lee has more of those struggles because he's black and fat. I'm joking. Take away the black part. He's just fat. He doesn't talk well. He has a gimmick that doesn't really exaggerate over his character of being being a big heavyweight, and he talks to you like he's trying to molest you. You can't make a character out of that unless you want to make him a big teacher. Make them like the Nutty Professor character, I guess. But over the extent of that, Keith Lee wasn't really much to be special. Just like the hypeness of Karrion Kross, but that's just my opinion. If you guys disagree or agree, that's all up to you. All I know is the greatest storyline Keith Lee ever had on WWE was just if he was too late for catering or not. And for that, I'm sad we didn't get to see that, because that would actually be pretty funny. But that's it for me. Hopefully, there's something coming out of the new Crack of Talent over in NXT 2.0 that looks like they're basing more over the characters. More people are focusing on I forgot his name. He's with the Letterman sweater. Joe Gacy. That I heard people are a bigger fan of Braun Breaker. People are hoping that he shows up for the main roster. Like, I'm hearing a lot more optimism on guys that look like they can beat you up and more character-based wrestlers, so we can actually get some good people on the WWE main roster. And we can actually build up the guys with a more staying power than 30-year-olds that are just good at just one thing. So that's all I'm gonna say about this. Keith Lee sucks. That's my conclusion. That was my intro, and you already saw his body. So that's all I got from you. That's it for me.